It wasn't like a prince coming home when Prince Harry arrived in the UK. He entered with the air of a man on a mission, one that was entirely focused on survival and had nothing to do with making amends. And it was evident. Harry Solo entered a nation that had once welcomed him, but now stares at him like a fading tabloid article. There were no fanfare, no screaming throngs, and no Meghan at his side. Everyone understood why he was really there, thus the stillness surrounding him was not just uncomfortable, but deafening. Things weren't kind and welcome inside the castle doors. The sessions, according to sources, were brief, formal, and excruciatingly businesslike. Just formalities, no passionate hugs, no emotional breakthroughs. The royal family may be happy for the cameras, but they also remember Harry's incessant public potshots at the same individuals he was now turning to. The Oprah interview, the biography, and the Netflix series. A handshake and a cup of tea are not enough to cover up that type of harm. The palace has been severing financial links, as is well known. Harry is more than simply a son of the now King Charles. He views him as a financial and public relations danger. There's not want to give millions to someone who has been portraying the monarchy as poisonous for the previous several years. That may have previously been accepted by the palace out of love, but that time is ended. The doors did not swing open this time. They hardly made a squeak. The shame begins at that point. Harry had little when he went, but he had hope. Or maybe a pitch. An empty trip back to California with no support, no contract, and no big-picture opportunity. The sobering knowledge that with or without him, the monarchy is proceeding. This is why it hurts so much more than a private setback in public. The world witnesses it. Once disinterested in the royal family, the guy is now circling back like a frantic CEO after an investment who has already canceled. Let's discuss the brand. Because the renegade royals Harry and Meghan were the pair that abandoned everything. They had Hollywood's attention, the world's pity, and the prospect of limitless possibilities. However, things shift. The Netflix radiance has diminished. Spotify has already severed its connection. The stuff isn't flowing as smoothly as it once did. For a time, they were the newest and greatest thing. However, in a field that is always in need of drama and new faces, novelty quickly fades. And the message was clear since Meghan wasn't on this trip to the UK. She refused to confront the chill of the palace. Her silence wasn't arbitrary. It was calculated. Harry was left to deal with the music by himself. He seemed fragile when he was by himself, taken away from the support, the publicity, and the belief that a single journey might fix everything. There was no reunion here. It was a wake-up call. Bills are still piling up back in California. Good intentions, security, lifestyle, public relations, and management are not the foundations of the Montecito home. Millions of dollars are spent. The financial strain is also severe, since there are fewer projects and even fewer suitors. Harry's goal goes beyond repairing familial relationships. He is frantically trying to prevent the collapse of his kingdom. Nor is the media letting him get away with it. The headlines are harsh. The prince returns to the UK with nothing. It is present everywhere. And since the fairy tale now seems more like a failed business strategy than a valiant escape, it damages the brand in addition to the ego. And it may have been the most agonizing aspect of all for Harry. Harry didn't just walk away with nothing. He left himself vulnerable. All he had constructed outside the monarchy was now scrutinized, and it was failing. The sales of books had slowed. The podcast endeavors ceased to exist. Once mesmerized by the royal renegade, Hollywood was now secretly wondering, is it really worth it anymore? The allure has faded. The story was worn out. And Harry wasn't creating any buzz in a place that depends on it. The industry is more fond of a demise than a recovery. According to reports, executives and producers who previously rushed to schedule meetings with the Sussexes are shifting their attention. There are more bankable faces, larger headlines, and newer names. The narrative used to be about Harry and Meghan. They are now the subject of someone else's joke. Furthermore, rebranding alone won't conceal the reality that is about to surface. The viewers have gone on, and Meghan comes next. Yet not speaking, yet absent from the journey. No one was unaware of that quiet. According to insiders, it had nothing to do with private affairs or schedule difficulties. It was a well-planned action. Meghan is familiar with the palace's operations. When the temperature drops, she is aware of how those rooms feel. She also had no intention of walking into that storm once again. Not without narrative control. The spectacle was only enhanced by her absence. Without uttering a word, it communicated a narrative. Harry was alone. He wasn't the self-assured Duke of Sussex when he entered those royal encounters. He was a guy attempting to court those who had already determined that he was no longer important. There was no taking of titles. Not quite yet. But no favors were being dished out either. For a son who had already spent years dismantling the first act, Charles had no intention of funding a second one. It is not a naive castle. The cycles are visible to them. They are aware that a single moment of vulnerability, a single check, or a financial lifeline might cause the headlines to become poisonous once again. The public has also become less forgiving. Many people who were formerly sympathetic to Harry's narrative are now more aware of the inconsistencies. How can you ask royalty to finance your life while establishing a brand on eschewing them? The question is more pressing than ever, and the optics are awful. Traveling alone, having brief encounters, and leaving without saying anything, shaking hands or grinning. Everything was silent. Too silent. The type of stillness that conveys all the information you need. Harry's position inside the palace is equally as important as the palace's position. Only a polite distance is being cautiously maintained. There is no longer any confidence or goodwill. The internet is beasting online. Timelines are overflowing with memes, quips, and old footage, particularly the ones in which Harry said he would never return. This return journey gave detractors the weapon they had been waiting for, and social media never forgets. So much for independence. Guess Netflix stopped paying, and other comments are receiving more likes, rather than pity. Perception is power in the public sphere, and the mockery has grown unrelenting. Harry is now rapidly losing that power. All that remains is a guy torn between two realities. Outgrown by the one he attempted to join and unwanted by the one he left. It's perilous to be in limbo like that. Relevance is eaten away by it. It erodes the picture. Furthermore, Harry may soon find himself without a nation, a cause, or the attention he previously so easily attracted if nothing significant changes. Harry's own inconsistencies are causing his attempt to project an image of a free man establishing a new life on his own terms to crumble. People become more aware of the flaws the more he talks about recovery and self-reliance. Being anti-monarchy is no longer the issue. It's about having no other choices. That is the rumor that permeates corporate offices, media circles, and even casual internet discussions. He wants to get back in touch, therefore he's not coming back. He's running out of roads, so he's coming back. And it is becoming apparent how desperate they are. Once praised as the courageous prince who left it all behind for love and truth, Harry is now being portrayed in considerably less favorable ways. Bitter, unpredictable, and unbankable. In the circles that formerly pursued him, they are the phrases that are circling about. Royalty is no longer the only issue here. It has to do with market value. Harry's worth is also falling at the moment. The fact that the same organizations he disapproved of have prospered just makes matters worse. The royal family continues to have worldwide significance in spite of its scandals, disputes, and ongoing media attention. Ceremony, heritage, and organization are the reasons they make the front pages, not drama. Harry ignored it, figuring his voice would be equally important outdoors. However, there isn't a crown outside to catch the fall. The drop is considerable as well. Every botched endeavor, uncomfortable headline, and cold royal meeting adds a new dimension to the narrative. Not only are people doubting his veracity, they are openly making fun of it. The prince who desired seclusion is unable to avoid being on camera, the rebel who fled back, the guy who said farewell but then pleaded for a guy over. They are more than simply tweets. His tale has been reinterpreted by the public. According to reports, Meghan is once again planning behind the scenes. Discussions about brand makeovers, new ventures, and maybe even more documentary-style storytelling. However, the climate has changed. The audience is less understanding. The cycle is too familiar to them. Huge disclosure, media hysteria, public pity, quiet, and then another well-planned and well-timed revelation. The manner it used to land has changed. Their inner circle seems narrower as well. The pair now faces a considerably smaller audience than the A-list celebrities, media insiders, and brand executives who formerly surrounded them. Messy reputations are disliked by Hollywood unless they are accompanied with successful comebacks. Additionally, the rewards just haven't been there recently. There were no breakthrough singles, viral moments, or significant endorsements, just rumors of unfulfilled agreements and fruitless talks. The last straw is public exhaustion, not fury or indignation, just tiredness. The general populace has moved on. The attention has shifted to new royals. Attention has been drawn to new celebrities. And Harry, who was once the talk of the world, now seems like a story from yesterday. The true danger is that ignorance rather than hatred. Harry is by himself in this new chapter. No audience guarantee, no royal support, and no obvious next step. He believed he was choosing independence, but freedom without assistance leads to loneliness. The truth is now being used against him, even if he believed he was choosing it. And he believed that he could manage the narrative, but it has taken on a life of its own. What's left is a guy in the limelight, which exposes him rather than flatters him. A guy whose comments reverberate each time he attempts to take back his position. And the question remains as Hollywood doors get quieter and the palace doors remain closed.